Welcome back to the big story. The focus has to be the budget with the big bang countdown still in play, and all eyes on will he be able to deliver the 5.3, or some may even call it the 5.1 aggressive target that was set by Pranab Mukherjee last budget. Shubham here with more details on the interesting mathematics of the expenditure that could help them curtail spending a little more. Shubham, what are you picking up?
Well, really, in a bid to meet the fiscal deficit target of 4.8% for the next fiscal, the Finance Ministry is coming out with innovative budgeting or innovative methods to keep the expenditure component in the budget under check. What we do know from our sources in the Finance Ministry is that the allocation of funds to the central ministries for next fiscal will be based on the actual funds that have been spent by these ministries in FY13. Now, what it really means for these central ministries is that ministries where revised estimates is lower than the budget estimates, those ministries will effectively get lower allocation in real terms or in percentage terms. Of course, this entire exercise is part of the expenditure consolidation strategy that the Finance Minister had laid out as soon as he took charge of the Finance Ministry on August 6th. It will also mean that the crucial gross budgetary support, which really tells you how much the planned expenditure is going to be, will end up somewhere between 5 to 10%. Of course, that final figure is usually decided a week before the budget. So by the end of this week, we will have clarity on what really is the gross budgetary support to the central ministries that we are going to see in the budget for next fiscal. But at this point of time, it looks like the Finance Ministry is seriously walking the path of fiscal consolidation that was laid out by the Finance Minister.
All right, Shubham, thanks for that. It's going to be a busy 2 weeks there at the Finance Ministry, and Shubham tracks that closely. We've got DK Joshi. He's the Chief Economist at Crisil right here. Mr. Joshi, we've heard a lot happening when it comes to the economics of it in the next 2 weeks. That's really going to be the headline, the curtailment of expenditure and the reining in of spends for the government. The big worry at this point of someone who's watching from the outside is that's very good for the fiscal deficit, but is there a big worry for choking off recovery if you do that?
Well, I think let me put the things in context a bit. I think when the economy is slowing down, I think you cannot depend on revenue generation for fiscal consolidation, and the correction has to be through expenditure management or expenditure right sizing, whatever term you might like to use it. And I think that process has already started. I mean, when we started raising the diesel prices, when we started cutting down on some of the wasteful expenditure, I think the process of expenditure consolidation started. Now, what we'll see in the budget, I think it's what is very likely is that there will be the government will try to rein in the expenditure, and within that, I think, as was mentioned earlier, that the ministries that are not able to spend their money, I think they might get lower allocations depending on what the revised estimates are. So I think this is not something new, and this typically happens. But I think what one must watch out for is that whether there is a sledgehammer approach to expenditure cuts, that expenditure cuts are we see expenditure cuts across the board. You're not able to distinguish between chalk and cheese. I think that is what needs to be avoided. The wasteful expenditure, the subsidies, I think that is where I would like to see cuts, and the capital expenditure should not be sacrificed for fiscal consolidation. I think that would be the broad thing I would be looking for in the budget. And overall, I think there is no doubt that without expenditure consolidation, which we have avoided for very long, we haven't had a very strong expenditure consolidation program ever, I mean, except for tweaking here and there. Now I think this presents an opportunity. I think I would also like to add is that the Finance Minister has very little leeway. I mean, typically when the economy is slowing, the way to revive the economy through fiscal process is either you raise your expenditures or you cut your tax rates. Both these options are not available to the Finance Minister. So we are going to see just the opposite of that happening. So I think while he reins in expenditure, I think he has to do two other things also simultaneously. One is, I think, ensure the quality of expenditure is improved, which means that the subsidies are better targeted. What is he going to do to ensure that you get full bang for the buck as far as the government spending is concerned? That will have a profound impact on the effectiveness of expenditure. The second thing that is not a part of the core core budgetary exercise, but I think usually gets associated with the budget is the reform process. I think the bottlenecks that are choking the economy, I think he needs to remove those bottlenecks. I'm talking of whether it is mining or it is a rollout of GST or it is the land acquisition issues. I think those things he has to do along with the budget so that at least the private sector scenario improves. I mean, even if government is not able to kickstart the economy by spending more, I think they should at least create an environment where private sector comes in.
Mr. Joshi, I want to go back to the point that you made that we've never really been a country or an economy where they've seen extensive expenditure consolidation. It is the year of polls. It is the year of elections. I know he has his pride to keep with the 5.1 and the 4.8% target. But we can't overlook at the fact that this is going to be a year of elections for the Congress government and they're not going to go into it with a completely tight expenditure budget. So the risk of actually overspending despite a budget target being low is actually a risk for FY14.
Well, yeah, that always remains. I think in an election year, I mean, everybody likes to improve the mood. I mean, and the growth, we do expect growth to pick up a little bit, and I think government could be could not be tightening as much as is anticipated right now. But I think what I said was if they manage to, even if they spend less, but they manage to make the expenditure more effective, they manage to ensure that the subsidies do actually reach out to the poor, then I think it has a much better impact on than raising the overall expenditure, which doesn't reach the poor in any case. So I think the quality of expenditure can to some extent compensate for the lack of quantity of spending.
All right, Mr. Joshi, thanks for joining in. The big information coming out there from Shubham is that expect the expenditure numbers that will be announced in the budget this time for FY14 will be based on the revised estimates, where they're supposed to be likely a lot lower than what the original budget estimates for the year past was, because spending has been curtailed to a large extent. Remember, in December, he had come out, Mr. P. Chidambaram had come out and capped the expenditure for the last 3 months to 33% of the entire spending. So a lot of sectors, a lot of ministries may see cuts coming in, but mathematically, the planned expenditure may see a nominal increase. That's the economy side of it, but now to the earnings season, which has finally come to a close.